There is someone inside you who has been trying to speak for years, but you keep interrupting them with your thoughts. You wake up, and before your eyes fully open, the voice begins. What you need to do today. What you forgot yesterday. What someone said last week that still stings. The endless commentary. The tireless narrator who never takes a break, never stops analyzing, predicting, protecting. This voice feels like you. It uses your tone, knows your history, speaks in first person. I should do this. I need to figure that out. I'm worried about. And so you believe it. You think this stream of mental chatter is your consciousness, your identity, the very seat of yourself. But here's what nobody tells you in school, in therapy, in all those self-help books promising transformation. That voice isn't you. It's something you're listening to. Think about that for a moment. If you can hear your thoughts, who is doing the hearing? Imagine standing in a crowded train station. Announcements blare from every speaker. Departure times, platform changes, safety warnings. The noise is constant, overlapping, urgent. Now imagine you've been standing in that station so long, you've forgotten there's a world outside it. You think the announcements are reality itself. You think you are the announcements. This is what most of us call consciousness. We've mistaken the radio for the listener. The ancient Sufis understood this deeply. They spoke of a station called fana, the dissolution of the false self. Not death, not disappearance, but the falling away of the noise until what remains is the awareness that was always there, quiet and vast, listening to everything. Your thinking mind is brilliant. Don't misunderstand this teaching. That voice has helped you survive, plan, learn, grow. It solves problems. It creates art. It remembers your mother's birthday and calculates your taxes and writes beautiful poetry. But somewhere along the way, it convinced you it was the only thing you are. And that's where the suffering begins. Because the thinking mind cannot rest. It cannot simply be. Its job is to commentate, to narrate, to make meaning of every sensation, every silence, every stillness. So even when nothing is wrong, it finds something. Even when you're safe, it reminds you that safety is temporary. Even when you're loved, it whispers that love can leave. The voice is never satisfied with now. It lives in the gap between what is and what should be, between who you are and who you think you need to become. It's always reaching, grasping, becoming, never arriving. You know this exhaustion intimately, don't you? The tiredness that sleep doesn't fix. The heaviness that comes not from doing too much, but from thinking too much. From carrying a mind that won't stop trying to solve the unsolvable, fix the unfixable, control the uncontrollable. You've tried to quiet it. Meditation apps, breathing exercises, positive affirmations, and they help sometimes for moments. But then the voice returns, often with commentary about your meditation. Am I doing this right? Is this working? My mind is still racing. I'm bad at this. See the trap. The thinking mind commenting on the thinking mind. The voice analyzing the voice. It's like trying to use a knife to cut itself. What if the answer isn't to make the voice stop? What if it's to remember who you were before the voice began? There's a space inside you that exists prior to thought. It's not empty, it's full, alive, aware. It's the consciousness that was present when you were 3 years old, staring at clouds without naming them. It's the awareness that noticed your first thought this morning, though you probably didn't notice that you noticed. This is the voice beneath your thoughts, not another thought, not a different narrative, but the listening itself. The awareness that holds all your mental noise the way the sky holds clouds. And it's been waiting, patiently, without judgment, without agenda. While you've been lost in the station announcements, it's been there, witnessing everything, touched by nothing. The Zen masters called it your original face, the one you had before your parents were born, before language, before the story of May began. Christians might call it the soul. Psychologists might call it pure awareness. The name doesn't matter. What matters is that it's real, it's yours, and it's been buried under decades of thinking. Here's what changes when you discover it. Nothing and everything. The thoughts still come. The voice still speaks. Your personality remains. Your memories stay intact. But there's suddenly space around all of it. A quiet vastness that doesn't need the story to be different. That doesn't need you to be better, wiser, more spiritual, more successful. It's the difference between being trapped in a dream and watching a movie. Same images, different relationship. One has you tangled in its drama. The other lets you witness freely. This isn't about transcendence. It's about coming home to something you've always been but forgot. Like a fish discovering water. Like a bird remembering it has wings. And the beautiful, almost heartbreaking truth is this, that awareness, that listening presence, that voice beneath your thoughts. It has never once worried about whether you're enough. It has never questioned your worth. It has never felt separate from the universe. Only the thinking mind does that. So maybe the question isn't, how do I stop thinking? Maybe it's, who am I when I'm not lost in thought? And maybe, just maybe, the answer has been waiting in the silence between your words all along. Let's go deeper into how this happened. How you became so identified with your thoughts that you forgot the listener. It started innocently. You were born as pure awareness, a consciousness experiencing itself through new eyes. No past, no future, no problems. Just sensation, wonder, presence. Then language arrived, and with it a gift and a curse. Words gave you the power to communicate, to learn, to think abstractly. But they also gave you the power to narrate, to create a character called me, and tell its story endlessly. And somewhere around age 2 or 3, that story became more real than reality itself. You learned your name. You learned you were separate from your mother. You learned that some things are mine and some aren't. You learned to anticipate, to remember, to worry. And the voice began its endless job, maintaining the story of you. Think about how much energy goes into this. Every day, from the moment you wake until you finally fall asleep, your mind is working to reinforce your identity, defending it, comparing it to others, improving it, protecting its reputation, nursing its wounds, celebrating its victories. I'm the kind of person who people think I need to prove that. I can't let them see that. On and on and on. Constructing and reconstructing this thing called self. But here's the strange paradox. The self you're so desperately protecting doesn't actually exist outside of thought. Take away the story, take away the narration, take away the endless mental commentary, and what remains? Not nothing, not emptiness, but something far more alive than the character you've been playing. The Buddhists saw this clearly. They spoke of anatta non-self. Not that you don't exist, but that the you think you are is a construction, a useful fiction, a role you're playing so convincingly that you've forgotten you're the actor behind the mask. Your true nature is the awareness that can play any role without being limited by any, the consciousness that can experience 1,000 different thoughts without being damaged by any. The presence that remains when everything else falls away. But you can't think your way to this understanding. That's like trying to use a flashlight to see the source of light. The thinking mind can point toward this truth, can circle around it with poetry and metaphor, but it cannot grasp it, because it is what's being observed, not the observer. So how do you hear the voice beneath your thoughts when the voice is silence? When it's not a voice at all, but the listening itself. You begin by catching yourself in the act of thinking, not judging the thoughts, not trying to stop them, just noticing. There's thinking happening, like watching clouds move across the sky. You don't try to push the clouds away. You don't climb up and sit on them. You simply see them pass. Right now, as you listen to these words, there's thinking happening. Your mind is processing language, making meaning, perhaps agreeing or disagreeing. And somewhere behind all that mental activity, there's an awareness that notices you're doing this. That awareness is what you're looking for, not as a goal, not as an achievement, but as a recognition. Like suddenly noticing you've been breathing all along. Most spiritual traditions describe this moment of recognition differently, but they're pointing at the same moon. Zen calls it Satori sudden awakening. Christianity speaks of the peace that passes understanding. Sufis describe it as the moment the veil lifts and you see there was never anything to seek. It's not flashy. It's not dramatic. You don't become a different person. You don't gain superpowers or special knowledge. You simply realize something so obvious it's almost embarrassing you missed it. You are the awareness in which everything appears and disappears. Thoughts, emotions, sensations, experiences, they all come and go. But what witnesses them? What remains when the content changes? That's you, the real you. The you that has no story, no history, no future. The you that simply is. And here's what makes this recognition so profound. When you know yourself as awareness rather than as thought, fear changes its nature. Not because you become fearless, but because there's a space around the fear now. It's no longer happening to you. It's happening in you within the vast container of your awareness. The same with pain, with sadness, with anxiety. The sensations remain. The thoughts still come, but they're no longer the totality of your experience. They're weather patterns moving through the sky of your consciousness. This is why ancient masters could sit in perfect peace while their bodies were in pain. Not because they were superhuman, but because they knew themselves as something larger than the pain. They had found the voice beneath their thoughts, the awareness that holds everything without being damaged by anything. You might be wondering, if this is true, if I am this vast awareness, why don't I feel it? Why does life still feel so heavy, so personal, so desperately important? Because you keep leaving. Every time a thought grabs your attention, you identify with it. And suddenly you're back in the dream. Back in the story of me. Back in the station with all its announcements, demanding your attention. But here's the beautiful secret. You can return anytime, anywhere, in the middle of chaos, in the depth of grief, in the height of joy. You can always come back to the awareness that never left. One breath, one moment of recognition. One slight shift from being the thinker to being the awareness of the thinker. And everything changes. And nothing changes. And somehow both are true. So we arrive at the question beneath all questions. How do you actually do this? How do you hear the voice beneath your thoughts in the middle of ordinary life? The answer is simpler than you imagine and harder than you'd like. It requires no special technique, no perfect meditation posture, no retreat to a mountain cave. But it does require one thing your mind will resist with everything it has: stopping. Not stopping thought, not stopping life, but stopping the constant reaching, the endless becoming, the desperate search for the next moment when everything will finally be okay. Let me give you something you can do right now. Not later, after you finish this video. Not tomorrow when you have more time. Right now, while these words are still in your ears. Notice that you're aware. Don't think about awareness. Don't analyze it. Don't try to figure out what it is. Just notice that in this moment, there is awareness happening. You are aware of these words, aware of your breath, aware of the space around you. That's it. That's the entire practice. And it's enough. You just touched the voice beneath your thoughts. It wasn't dramatic. There was no lightning bolt, no cosmic revelation. Just a simple recognition. Awareness is here. It's always here. You are it. But here's what will happen next. Your thinking mind will immediately jump back in. Did I do it right? Is this what they meant? I didn't feel anything special. Maybe I'm not good at this, and that's perfect. Because now you can notice those thoughts too. Watch how quickly the mind tries to make even awareness into a project, a goal, an achievement to be won. This is why the masters speak of practice. Not because you need to get better at awareness. You can't get better at what you already are. But because you need to recognize again and again and again that you keep leaving. You keep getting lost in thought and forgetting the awareness that holds it all. The Sufis have a beautiful practice called Dekha remembrance. They repeat sacred phrases not to reach God, but to remember they were never separate from God. Each repetition is a return. Each breath is a coming home. You can do this with anything. With the simple phrase, I am here. With feeling your breath. With noticing sounds without naming them. With sensing the aliveness in your hands. The practice isn't about the technique. It's about the return. The moment you realize you've been lost in thought, you're already back. The recognition itself is the awakening. But let's be honest about something. This is hard. Not intellectually hard. A child can understand it. But hard because it threatens the entire architecture of how you've been living. Your thinking mind has been in charge for decades. It has elaborate plans for your future. It carries detailed memories of your past. It knows who you're supposed to be, what you're supposed to achieve, how you're supposed to feel. And now you're suggesting there's something deeper than all that. Something that doesn't care about the story. The ego doesn't like this. It will create very sophisticated spiritual thoughts to keep you seeking rather than seeing. I need to meditate more. I need a better teacher. I need to read more books. I need to have a big awakening experience. More thought, more story, more becoming. But the voice beneath your thoughts isn't waiting for you to become worthy of it. It isn't impressed by your spiritual resume. It doesn't care if you've meditated for 10,000 hours or 10 seconds. It's here, now, always. Patiently witnessing your search for it. While knowing you're standing in what you seek, there's a Zen story about a fish who swims to an elder fish and asks, "Excuse me, I'm looking for something called the ocean. Can you tell me where to find it?" And the elder fish says, "The ocean. That's what you're in right now." And the young fish says, This is just water, you see. You're looking for awareness while swimming in it. You're seeking the listener while it hears every word. You're trying to find yourself while being yourself. So here's the practice. Stripped down to its essence, notice when you're lost in thought. That's it. Not to stop the thoughts. Not to judge yourself for being lost. Just notice. And in that noticing, there's a gap, a space, a breath of awareness. At first, these gaps might last only a second before the thinking mind rushes back in. That's fine. You're not trying to maintain awareness forever. You're just recognizing it when it appears. Like recognizing an old friend in a crowd. Over time, something shifts. Not because you're achieving awareness, but because you're remembering it more often. The gaps get longer. The identification with thought gets looser. You start to sense there's a vast space inside you that holds all your human experiences without being defined by them. Your personality doesn't disappear. Your preferences, your memories, your unique way of being in the world, all of that remains. But it's no longer who you think you are. It's what you're experiencing. There's a crucial difference. When you know yourself as awareness, life doesn't become perfect. Pain still hurts. Loss still grieves. Challenges still challenge. But there's a quality of okayness underneath everything. Not because you're in denial or spiritual bypass, but because the part of you that's aware has never been damaged, never been broken, never needed fixing. This is the voice beneath your thoughts. It's not silent, and it's not speaking. It's the listening itself. The awareness that makes all experience possible. And it's been waiting for you to remember it since before you learned your name. So where does this leave you? Right here. Right now. Exactly where you've always been. Nothing about your life has to change for you to hear the voice beneath your thoughts. You don't need to quit your job, leave your relationships, or move to a monastery. You don't need to become more spiritual, more enlightened, more anything. This isn't about transformation. It's about recognition, seeing what was always true but went unnoticed. Like discovering you've been breathing all along, or realizing the sun was there behind the clouds. The tragedy is how long we search for what we already have. How many books we read looking for the answer that can't be written. How many teachers we follow hoping they'll give us what we already are. How much time we spend becoming when we could simply be. Your thinking mind will say, but I don't feel awakened. I don't feel like pure awareness. I still struggle. I still suffer. And that's because you're looking for awareness as an experience, as a feeling, as a state you can achieve and hold on to. But awareness isn't a state. States come and go. You feel peaceful, then you feel anxious. You feel clear, then you feel confused. All of that is content. All of that is what awareness is watching. You are the watching. Not as a practice, not as an achievement, but as your most fundamental nature. The one thing about you that has never changed, never aged, never been damaged by anything you've experienced. Think about every moment of your life. Every joy, every sorrow, every triumph, every failure. Through all of it, there's been one constant awareness. The same awareness that noticed your thoughts when you were 7 is noticing them now. It hasn't evolved. It hasn't improved. It simply is. This is why the ancient teachings say the spiritual journey is about subtraction, not addition. You don't need to gain something. You need to recognize what all your seeking has been covering up. Drop the story and what remains. Drop the narration and who's here. Stop trying to become and what's already present. The Sufis say it beautifully when you realize that the treasure you're seeking is already in your own backyard. The search ends and the party begins. So what does it look like to live from this recognition? Does life become blissful? Does all your pain disappear? Do you float around in a state of permanent enlightenment? No, and yes, and neither. You still experience the full spectrum of human emotion. You still face challenges. You still have preferences. You still get frustrated in traffic and laugh at jokes and cry at movies. You're still human, but there's space around it now. A quality of witness consciousness that sees all of it without being consumed by any of it. You can feel deep sadness without believing you are sadness. You can experience fear without identifying as a fearful person. You can have thoughts without thinking you are your thoughts. This is freedom. Not freedom from life, but freedom within life. Not escape from the human experience, but a totally different relationship to it. And here's the subtle magic that happens when you're no longer desperately trying to avoid discomfort or chase comfort. Life becomes unexpectedly lighter. Not because the circumstances improve, but because you're no longer in constant resistance to what is. The thinking mind spends enormous energy fighting reality. This shouldn't be happening. I should be further along. They should act differently. Life should be easier. Thousands of micro resistances every day, each one creating tension, suffering, separation. But awareness doesn't resist. It allows everything to be as it is, while remaining untouched. Like the ocean allowing waves to rise and fall on its surface without being disturbed in its depths. You are that depth. You've always been that depth. You just got very focused on the waves and forgot about the ocean. So this is the invitation. Come back to yourself, not the self you think you are, not the character in the story, but the awareness that holds all stories without being limited by any. You don't need permission for this. You don't need to be more ready. You don't need one more insight, one more practice, one more video explaining it differently. Right now, in this moment, you can notice you're aware. You can feel the breath moving in your body. You can hear the silence between these words. You can sense the aliveness that animates everything you are. That's it. That's the voice beneath your thoughts. Not hidden, not distant, not waiting for you to be worthy of it. Here, present, aware, always. The spiritual path isn't a path at all. It's a recognition that you've already arrived, that you were never lost, that the home you've been searching for has been waiting inside you, patiently, quietly, since before you learned to speak. And when you finally stop and listen, really listen, beneath the noise, beneath the commentary, beneath the endless narration, you hear it, not as words, not as thoughts, but as a presence, a stillness, a vast and loving awareness that has held you through everything and will hold you through everything to come. This is who you are, not what you will become someday if you do everything right, but what you already are, right now, beneath everything you think you are. The voice beneath your thoughts isn't telling you to be different. It isn't disappointed in who you've been. It isn't waiting for you to fix yourself. It's simply here, witnessing, allowing, being, and when you recognize it, when you come home to it, even for just a moment, something inside you takes a breath it's been holding for lifetimes and whispers, "Welcome back."